Okay, welcome back. How's it going, everyone? This is Mike, and it's time for another episode of Movies from A to Z. Today, letter M takes us to the year 1935, MGM Studios, for Mad Love, starring Peter Lorre in his first American film. Okay, Mad Love. Now, this nice little thin-packed double feature, along with Lionel Barrymore in The Devil Doll, comes in this terrific box set called The Legends of Horror, which you all need to get immediately. It also features Dr. X and the Return of Dr. X, which features Humphrey Bogart in his one and only horror movie. And also Mark of the Vampire with Bela Lugosi and The Mask of Fu Manchu starring Boris Karloff and Myrna Loy. So, terrific box set. Now, I haven't seen Mad Love. Wow. I watched it just a few hours ago, and I've already forgotten some of the names of the characters, which shows you the mind is beginning to snap. So I'll do the best I can here. But I haven't seen this until tonight, since way back in probably the 1960s or 1970s, back when I was first discovering all these classic horror movies on television. And I think I've only seen it once, so there wasn't a lot about it that I remember, but I really enjoyed watching it tonight. So Mad Love, it's based on a novel called The Hands of Orlac, which a French novel, which had been filmed before in a European version in 1924, starring Conrad Veidt, the same man who was in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it was filmed again in 1960 in another European version called The Hands of Orlac. And it starred Mel Ferrer and Christopher Lee. I haven't seen that version. I haven't seen the silent version either. But I don't know how much they changed from the novel and the original silent film to make this. But Peter Lorre plays Dr. Gogol. He's a very famous, very talented surgeon. And he's pretty much the central character, even though he's not playing Mr. Orlac, who's played by Colin Clive, the same guy who played Dr. Frankenstein. So Peter Lorre is completely obsessed by a beautiful young actress named, well, she's married to Mr. Orlac. I can't remember her first name, but she's played by actress Frances Drake, who was a beautiful actress of the period. And she happens to be working in a theater of horrors in Paris. It's a Grand Guignol thing where they put on little plays where people are getting tortured and murdered. And she plays a woman who is victimized during some of these plays. And he's just crazy about her. He has gone to every performance of the shows, keeps sending her flowers. He thinks he might have, he's dreaming about maybe having her fall in love with him. But his hopes are dashed when he goes back to meet her after her last performance. And she tells him that she's going away with her husband, who's a concert pianist. And he doesn't even know that she was a married woman and that she won't be acting anymore. So he's very disappointed. And she's a little bit afraid of the guy and repelled by him because he's coming on way too strong. Well, flash forward to a plot point where the husband, Mr. Orlac, is involved in a train accident and his hands are crushed. The worst thing that can happen to a piano player. His hands are crushed and they have to be amputated. Well, his wife decides to use her influence on Dr. Gogol, because she knows how much he's in love with her, to get him to try to repair her husband's hands, because she knows that he's a very talented guy and has been doing things that other doctors have not been able to do. So Dr. Gogol decides to amputate Mr. Orlac's hands and replace them with the hands of a recently convicted killer, right? So he does that without telling the wife what he has done, and without telling Mr. Orlac either. Mr. Orlac wakes up with these hands that have to be retrained. He said, "These do not look like my hands," and they started doing some very strange things. So that's the gist of the story without giving way too much away. It's a very creepy story. It has a lot of great cinematography, set design, and a good performance by Peter Lorre. And it was not a success when it came out. Got a lot of negative criticism, didn't make very much money, and even though the critics singled out Peter Lorre's performance as Dr. Gogol, and it had good cinematography by a guy named Greg Toland, who would later on go on to do Citizen Kane. So it had a great look to it, black and white, of course, and it looked a lot like this was made at MGM, and of course MGM had a lot of money to throw at even small films like this, and a lot of style, a lot of class. But it looked a lot like the Universal films of the period, and it also resembled those films in that they inserted a lot of comedy to sort of, I don't know, I guess they did it to sort of soften the effect of the really creepy scenes. And there were a lot of creepy things in here, and a lot of violence for the time. And I guess they just felt like they had to make things funny. They did the same thing at MGM in Mark of the Vampire the same year. They put in a lot of comedy. This film is only 68 minutes long. They cut out 15 minutes for some reason. I don't know why they would do such a thing and make it such a short film. But anyway, it didn't do very well. Peter Lorre, as I said, this was his first American film. He had made a lot of European films, became internationally famous when he did M in 1931, and of course he did an Alfred Hitchcock film called The Man Who Knew Too Much, which was an English film. And he came to America to do a film called Crime and Punishment, which for some reason was delayed, but MGM decided to put him in this film before that. So, and I guess that's all I want to say, really. Let's see. Another familiar face you might recognize in this is the actor Key Luke, who would go on to play Charlie Chan's #1 son in about 40,000 low-budget films. This is a really good movie to see, especially for those of you who are interested in the old classic horror films, because this definitely fits right in with all of them. And there are a lot of interesting things in it. For one thing, they put a lot of nice touches here and there. In the opening credits, the very last thing they show in the credits is a list of the cast, and they're doing it right in front of a window. And after about 4 seconds of showing the names, a fist comes up in the middle of the screen and it smashes the glass, and then you go right into the movie. That's a very interesting way to open up a film. Gets your attention. So anyway, thank you for watching. Comments are welcome. Let me know if you've seen any of these films in the Legend of Horror set, and I will answer every one of your comments, every single one, I promise you. Take care.